and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Pam, please.
Mayor Grimminger?
Here.
Alderman Skaggs?
Here.
Alderwoman Zerwig? Alderman Stupi?
Here.
Alderman Jokers?
Here.
Alderman Steiger?
Here.
Alderman Openface?
Yes.
Alderwoman Broomfield? Alderman Ross?
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Let's see. John and Joe, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I guess we will go right into your report, Norton.
Okay, the first item at our last meeting on my report was a list of names that I was proposing for the steering committee for revisions of the master plan, that process. And hearing no recommended changes, I went ahead and sent out letters to those people requesting their participation. Several of them have responded in the affirmative. For those I don't hear from by Monday, I'm going to give them a call and ask them if they would like to participate. I mentioned to you, and you authorized me to proceed with putting together a plan for a trail connecting Progress Parkway to the residential areas of the city. And I discovered along the way that in order to receive and administer those the money from projects such as that, you had to have completed a training program that the Federal Highway Administration and MoDOT put on, and it also applies to the Safe Routes for School program, although that requirement came after you were already approved for your grant, so it was kind of in the mix thing. So Brenda and I went to this training program. It was a half-a-day event up in the MoDOT's training center in Chesterfield. It was eye-opening, to say the least, and will serve us well because we now understand the record-keeping obligation and supervision obligations we have when we receive those funds. And we've implemented the procedures to use with the Safe Routes for School program that will keep us in compliance with the federal government. We met with Lakenan. We got our quotes. Overall, our health and property and casualty is well below the 12% increase that we had projected, although that's because the health stayed low and the property and casualty went up a little bit, but the outcome is within budgetary limits. The sign committee responded to a request from MoDOT, and I would let Teddy cover this, but it basically was they wanted to know what signs were going to go where in their right-of-way, and they wanted an image of the signs that we would be using before they would approve them. So we met, and Bob Mueller put together some photoshopped versions of this sign, and we sent it off to the highway department, and the guy that requested it will be in Monday, so presumably it's acceptable. I'm going to go ahead and deal with this next item in my report rather than later in the meeting, and that is our meeting with the Special Road District. The mayor and I attended their last meeting. You will recall from our report a month ago, we had met with them and said, we can't really do a major improvement to any of the city streets with $24,000. We asked about permission to receive it, put it in a special fund, and then as they are able to contribute to us down the road, we would build a fund that would be large enough for us then to take undertake a meaningful improvement, because with just the $24,000 we could do some repairs and patches, but we wouldn't really make an impact on the streets. And we also asked them if we could give them a list of the streets that we would like to have this money authorized to be used on. And we talked about it, and they said, well, as long as it's used on streets to promote the commerce within the city, then they would consider that, but they would like for us to give them a list of the streets. So it's really, before I submit a list to them, I wanted to bring it to your attention and talk about which streets you'd like for us to include. I think Market Street is an obvious addition because that's one of the ways people get into town. Maybe St. Mary's would be a likely addition because, again, it's a major route into the downtown area.
I don't agree with that, I don't mean to interrupt, but
I'm through.
every one of our citizens in the city pays that tax, and I think they should be possibly capable of receiving repair work from that fund. So, I mean, if it's gonna be a major sticking point, maybe move on, but it doesn't make any sense, because someone that lives on Leahy, or someone that lives on Girard, or someone that lives on, they're paying that tax, and they're not gonna receive any of the benefit on their streets. Now, granted, they're gonna travel some of those other roads, but to me, that doesn't make any sense, where they're putting all these restrictions on us to use these funds. So.
Well, I thought we were able, I guess the three things we'd asked for was, one, more money, two was, the other two things was, can we combine the monies, and can we use it on other streets? And I guess at this point, we at least got two out of the three.
If you're fine with it, Mayor, then.
I agree with you to that certainly that point, Joe. I guess maybe if they look at why special road districts were set up to supposedly promote commerce to the cities themselves from the outlying areas, then I guess you could use that same kind of reasoning as these are the streets.
But if you look at Geezy Road doesn't lead into the city. So how does Geezy Road, if you want to use that one for instance, how does that promote commerce?
I guess it gets the people from Geezy Road to 32 to
So
downtown.
just like Girard Street would get them to Market Street,
Well,
which would,
that's true.
so you can't use that argument.
No,
and
I understand. The other thing, but looking at it on the practical side, the amount of money, even if they gave us the max, if we had 4 or 5 streets, it will take us years and years and years to spend the maximum amount of money that they could possibly give us. So maybe we start with this anyway and go from there. But
Was there any discussion as far as what percent, they're offering 24,000, which is what, 13% or 14%?
We've had those discussions with them prior to now, and did not get any indication that they had any more money to give us this year.
Well, I'm talking about future years. I mean, are we locked into 24,000 every year, or is there a range we can look at, and like the minimum and the maximum range we can look at based on what they're giving us? I hate to be locked into a certain amount every year.
Well,
And I know they're getting a lot more money from us.
I proposed to them that we would amend the agreement that they gave us to reflect these changes. My expectation is that agreement would also only apply to this year's budget.
All right, so this is only for this year's.
This isn't
So every year we have to.
this isn't every year we renegotiate.
at least that, we only have 2 months basically to spend the 24, so at least we can get that 24 set aside for next
For
year
next year.
and try to negotiate hopefully a bigger number.
I mean, at least it's a start.
Yeah, it is a start. I mean, that was our comment too, that it is a start.
Okay.
So does anybody have any
Is this something we have to decide tonight?
no, but
I mean, can we think about?
they're not going to consider it before their next meeting, so we'll have another meeting before their next meeting.
Okay, I would like to have some time to take
Yeah.
a look at the streets.
Yeah, okay.
And see if there's something that we're missing.
But certainly at our next meeting, we should be prepared.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and kind of make the language changes that we need to make in the agreement and leave the space for the enumeration of the streets, and then at our next meeting, you can direct me.
Okay, thank
The safe routes to school, we had our kickoff meeting today with the contractors and the school. Shelley Jokerst and Buck was here to talk about transportation so that their construction doesn't impede the movement of the students in and out of the school campus. It was fairly agreeable and uneventful. They plan to start on October the 22nd. They're going to start on the 5th Street at Market and kind of work counterclockwise. It's a 60-day contract. We've got 60 days to finish the. On Ridgeway, they're going to coordinate with the school to make sure they don't undertake construction there while school's in session. So they're going to use the couple of days that the school's closed to get Ridgeway done, because that's such a problem, as we've discussed in past meetings. So that seems to be going well, and coincidentally, the Market Street plans are out for approval. The bid opening is October the 4th. So we'll be taking the bids on the Market Street stormwater improvements 2 days after they start. We'll be able to award it within a week or so, because we don't have any federal approvals or state approvals on that. And that would get that work scheduled in so that it's ready when they're before they finish the sidewalk program. So it's working out well as far as timing is concerned. Don't know if you've observed, but they finished paving Westwood today. So that project is complete. There were a couple of, and I'll go ahead and cover this now, a couple of things, one bad and one good, that were discovered in the process. When they took up the asphalt for Westwood, the subgrade in the area, if you go in and make the turn and hit you're just straightening out, that subgrade for a number of feet was just like peat. I mean, it pumped when you drove over it. It was unacceptable, and no pavement you put over the top of it would have lasted. So we had to take out all of that and bring in new rock and compact it in place. That's the bad part. On the other end, up in the cul-de-sac, in the newer portion of Westwood, the rock that had been placed there was still in good shape. But that was removing and replacing that was part of the contractor's bid. So we didn't have to remove and replace that. So the added cost of $12,000 for that was offset by a little less than 12, by the savings at the upper end within about whatever the change order is, and I forgot.
I think it's
$3,000, $3,300. So when I heard the first part a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't tell them not to do that because we would have had a bad road, we were pleased to find out. I was gambling on the fact that the rock at the upper end would be in good shape, and as it turned out it was. So they offset each other to the largest extent, so that was good. I don't know if you've looked at it, but I think we should give our compliments to the contractors. Asphalt is pretty much asphalt. Most contractors do a good job. Concrete, and particularly curbs and gutters, can be problematic. If you're not careful, you get waves and both horizontal and vertical misalignments, and that work is pretty true. It's a good job, and I think the contractors are to be complimented.
Yeah, I agree. I went up there this evening, and all of the work they did on each individual's driveways there, that was all top notch.
And another testament is my phone has not rung one time.
Yep.
Now it may, because I saw a couple of places where if I were a landowner, I probably would have wanted the dirt worked up a little finer. We have to get them to come back and do those things. But I walked up and down the street today and talked to several of the residents, and everybody was just grateful, number one, that you got approved the work and pleased with the product. So, we talked about the only potential problem is now that they have this nice, smooth surface. Some of the younger drivers might tend to go too fast, but I told them we would address that with patrols and see if we can keep it under control.
You know, along those lines, could you kind of give us a little update or what with Porter Street and, you know, and I mean, we're in the new fiscal year and
Sure.
how things maybe would set up for this
Yeah.
year.
The design of Porter Street requires two things that we have to get done ahead of time. One is we need approval from MoDOT to work in the right-of-way at either end of it. And so the engineer has been directed to secure those approvals. Second is we need some easements for the stormwater and the little easements on the road width. We have prepared those easement documents. We have title work on that. They've been reviewed by the city attorney, and now we have to get those easements signed by the property owners. I think I haven't decided whether to do it door to door, or maybe just ask them to come to a meeting, as a group meeting, so we get all of their questions answered at one time. But in any case, the asphalt plants will close before we could start construction. So it wouldn't serve our interest to bid that now, just to have the contractor have to sit on it until March. So we'll probably put it out for bid towards the end of February, with the expectation that the work could begin in March. Have to watch the weather, but I'm sure that'll be plenty of time. And so we'll get it done first thing in the early spring.
Okay, thank you.
You were talking about, you were gonna have to have some easements, property easements, what, they're gonna widen it? And
The street won't
I think
be.
it has to be widened maybe on the 61 end.
Yeah, and it needs to get to be a uniform width.
Right.
And we're gonna be putting stormwater structures
Mhm.
and changing the grades, and all of that's gonna require about 5 feet on either side, more than is currently there.
Okay.
So, and then we're gonna be putting in the drainage structures so that it carries the water to the ditch behind the apartments. The owners of the apartments have already talked about their willingness to give us those easements, but I don't have them yet. So we have the documents prepared for them to sign. And they talked to me, and I'll be bringing back to you their request that the city also accept the property, the ditch behind the apartments for maintenance, since we're putting our stormwater in there. And that'll be one of the issues that I'll have to discuss with you after I've had my meeting with them and we get it more well-defined, but I know that request is coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just, and I know it was in the paper, but when Martin and Brenda were at that seminar, there was a Port Authority meeting, so I attended it in his place, and it was talked about what happens possibly down the road, and it could be that the cities and the counties could end up getting some of the money that they've invested in it back. I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know if we will ever see it, because you also go back into maintaining and expanding the port as money is made down there, but it's certainly not ruled out that we couldn't get some of that money back. They are going to come back to us here again for our annual contribution to it. I believe it's $2,500 is what we usually do. And also they are going to put out bids for the stevedore to actually run the port. And it was brought up in that meeting about putting some requests or some requirements in that the employees that are hired by that company, whether they're from wherever that company comes from, they said they do have at least a few companies interested in bidding on that those people would be residents of St. Genevieve or Perry County. It's going to be one of the requirements. So that they were working on that here shortly. That was about it with the port. Sheriff was there, talked about possibility of docking their new boat down there and some of the possibilities that they may have with it, docking it and storing it down there. So That's all, just to finish up on his report. Okay, any, well, I guess we had everybody's reports last week. Terry, do you have anything? Or Steve?
We don't have one tonight. Here to answer any questions any of you may have.
How did the Flushing, have you finished that?
Flushing should be completed tomorrow. It was scheduled to be completed today. We had a main break yesterday, so put us behind schedule.
And where was the main break?
Up on Ridgeway.
Got off easy. First one here. Thanks. I see Stephanie, anybody got any, do you have anything you want to, since you're here?
Here. I'll have my report for you at the next meeting.
Sure.
Just working on getting all the numbers together, set up to provide you with information like I did at the work session. So you guys have more information at your hands. Does anyone have any questions?
There was a tax commission meeting last night, and I had to leave to be on What's New, which was fun. And what was the outcome of that?
The outcome, they had brought in Bo Caldwell, Beth, who owns Station 2 as her husband, asked some questions about Facebook advertising using the tax commission funds, and they made a decision to use $1,000 to try toward a month's worth of Facebook advertising, focusing on Belleville and Wentzville, and a radius around there. So they're going to try that out and see how that goes, what the response is.
But that money is outside of the money that they have dedicated to the city's budget for marketing.
No, that's
Part
out
of
of
that.
out of the 16,000 that they allocated.
Pardon
They're
me?
choosing to use 1,000 of that toward Facebook marketing.
Okay. So it won't require a budget amendment from us.
It should not.
You have the visitors where they sign their names down there.
Yes.
Do you have anything there that you ask them how they found out about St. Genevieve?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Yes, and it's a mix. A lot of people, they know they saw it or they heard it somewhere. They just can't remember the exact, where they said. Missouri Life is very kind to St. Genevieve.
Right.
They just had an article come out. They're going to have another article coming out with their December issue. We've gotten some responses recently where folks have heard about us from Missouri Life. Midwest Traveler is always kind to us as well. And so I've gotten quite a few responses. And then quite recently, there's a show on one of the cable networks called How the States Got Their Shapes. And they have been rerunning, they're getting ready to start a new series. And they played the one that includes St. Genevieve. So we've gotten some response from that, as well as the one on RFD TV for the Rural Heritage Festival. So we've had some nice little extra bonus attention thrown our way. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Any committee reports?
Well, I did have one, but Martin pretty well said everything, but,
Sorry about that.
I would like to say that I am very fortunate that I got Bob Miller on this committee because he does outstanding work. He gets the job done. We got the information to Martin. We got that over to MoDOT. So he's always there.
And we're also fortunate that his son is so expert at Photoshop.
Yes, that helps too with the Photoshop and everything to make the diagrams, so I just want to make that clear how lucky I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to echo that, he's a big help in a lot of places, that's for sure.
Yes, he is.
Anybody else? Okay, going to approval of the minutes of the September 27th meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we have Resolution 2012-63, a resolution of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri stating intent to apply for a 2013 Missouri Department of Conservation grant in the amount of $5,700 for the St. Genevieve Fire Department.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Turnout gear.
Okay.
Very important.
Okay, old business, bill number 3894. There is no old business, I'm sorry, we're in the new business. Bill number 3894, first reading.
An ordinance approving change order number 1 in the amount of $3,340 and a final contract amount of $156,613 on the contract with Jokers Incorporated of St. Genevieve, Missouri for the Westwood Drive Improvements Project.
Move approval.
Call it. All in favor, first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? We can wait.
I'll make a motion with second.
Second reading? Second.
Do we need one?
I don't know if we, I don't,
We
So
need-
we might
We
have
need
some, we might have them come back out and do some additional work.
I would have difficulty recommending a second reading
I
on the
withdraw
basis
my
of
second.
emergency, but, if you did it, I could just not pay them until I'm ready.
I'll withdraw my second.
all right, let's just leave it. Okay, that's the only thing we have on, as far as new business go. Anybody,
A question on that, on that ordinance. Could we get a final, we spent a lot of money on the Westwood project with some other engineering and the original engineering of it. Could we get how much money that, an estimated cost of what Westwood cost us?
When you say the original engineering, you mean the money you spent on Taylor years ago?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have, we can get that, yes.
Guesstimate on maybe some of that?
Well, no, we can look it up.
Okay, that'd be great.
any public comments before we go into other business? Okay, other business, we have one item on the agenda, approval of the application for a liquor license for Terry Berry for 299 Merchant Street.
Move to approve. Second.
Alderman Ross, and I think, who over here second that? John? Any comment? All in favor? Opposed?
Do we know what it's about? Well,
299 Merchant Street would be where the sandbar or, I
little
believe,
PR.
Terry, you're,
You got your license.
Terry Berry. I'd like to put the sandbar back in business on 299 Merchant. I had business there in '98 before I got transferred out. And this time around, I'm going to be there full-time. No more transfers, no more corporations, so I would be running it full-time. And it's just going to be a nice, friendly place you can go and have a drink and, just basic, simple bar and grill food like hamburgers, maybe wings and chili. Good place to go after a football game, or, just to go out. We'll probably serve food to midnight, just bar food. And be a nice place to bring your wife out and have a drink.
When are you anticipating to try to be open?
Well, if I could get a second reading, I'd go apply for my license.
you don't need one.
Don't need one?
Got it.
You're done. You're done with us.
Okay. Apply for my license. I'm going to drive up to Webster and at the liquor office and turn everything in, get all my tax bonds taken care of, and as soon as the license comes back, we'll open the doors. We'll be ready. So hopefully 2 to 3 weeks.
There's a lot of activity down
Yeah, and if anybody has come by, you'll notice that we are sprucing up the building quite a bit. So it's got a little fresh paint and redoing putting a 22 by 9 new bar in and back bars. So I think it's going to be a nice improvement. Even nicer than I had before.
What was the name of it?
It's going to be called Sandbar, just plain and simple. When I had it in '98, I called it Crawdaddy's Sandbar because we served crawdads. But everybody called it Sandbar, so I'm not fighting it anymore.
So I'm not married and can't bring a wife, can I still come?
Yes.
Okay.
You have children.
Oh, I'd bring somebody else's wife.
Yeah, I'll take Martin over. Yeah,
'Any other,
Take Linda, you can't have the
any
children.
other business? Okay, if not, we'll have a motion to go into closed session to talk about personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Personnel.
Alderman Skaggs.
Yes.
Alderman Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Steiger.
Yes.
Alderman Okenthus.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderwoman Broomfield.
That's three things.
Motion carries.
Okay.